Okay, I'm here with Orlando Ramos, who is a state rep who has decided to run for the mayor of Springfield. Thanks for joining us,
Thank
Orlando.
you for having me. It's always fun.
Okay, so I got a lot to talk to you about.
Yes, sir.
Because there's a lot going on. Top of mind awareness today in the city of Springfield is, of course, crime.
Yes.
I went to your website. You have a very comprehensive strategy that you have put together in terms of trying to address crime in Springfield. Just in general, obviously, according to your plan, we're not doing enough. Is this something that you feel is systemic? Is this something that's happened just because over the last decade things have changed in the city of Springfield, as opposed to it just being a recent topic? Do you think that crime in Springfield has been one of these things that really hasn't been addressed the right way for a long time?
Well, yes, I do, actually, because if you look at the statistics, the city was actually safer prior to Dominic Sarno taking office in 2008. We were actually averaging less homicides per year prior to him taking office. So it's something that has sort of gradually increased over the years to the point where now we're breaking records. And part of it is because of the sort of his reactionary plan, right? Or if you want to call it a plan, because I don't know that there's a vision there from the current mayor. You know, blaming the judges for crime in the city is just not going to make our city any safer. And to be honest, you know, judges are not responsible for preventing crime, right? They're responsible for deciding what the penalty should be for a crime. But it isn't in their job title or job description to prevent crime in the city. That's the mayor's job. The mayor is the one that should come up with a plan to make the city safer.
I'm just looking at your plan. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. One thing that I noticed is community policing.
Yes.
You know, when I bought my house in Maple Heights Six Corners in 1990, we went through a whole period of community policing where the same police officers were familiar figures in our neighborhood.
Yes.
They went to the neighborhood council meetings. They listened to what people had to say. Over the years, the concept of community policing has changed. What's your concept for community policing?
Well, my concept of community policing is sort of a modified version of what we used to have in the late 90s, early 2000s. We want to incorporate all of those good things that you just mentioned, right? We want to make it consistent so that the police officers that are patrolling our neighborhoods, we know their names. You know, they know our children's names. They know our names. And I think it's important when they're serving that they know the people that live in the communities in which they're serving. But we also want to employ using some of the current data and technology that we didn't have available in the late 90s, early 2000s to engage the community policing officers with the public. And by doing so, I think we can repair and improve police-community relations in our city, which has been a major issue over the last few years. And it's one of the reasons why the broken relationship or the mistrust, right, between the public and the police, not just in Springfield but in general, that leads to higher crime because the public doesn't feel comfortable sharing information with the police officers, right? And so if we're able to repair that relationship, then they'll feel more comfortable sharing information, and that'll help the police officers to be able to solve crimes but also prevent crimes.
Okay, we'll look at this plan for one more point to bring up to the people right now. I do think that anybody who's interested in this mayor's race should go to your website and take a look at it in depth.
Sure.
You talk about improving police and community relations and creating a program similar to the DARE program. Do you think, and you just alluded to it a moment ago, do you think there's a lot of work that needs to be done to bridge the gap between the average Springfield resident and the police officers?
There is, and again, that's sort of the goal, right? You know, we used to have programs like DARE in our schools, and that brought police officers into schools in a positive way. Nowadays, if you see a police officer in a school, they're there to probably arrest somebody, right? And so that's not the first impression or the frequent impression that we want to give our children, that police officers are only there to arrest people, right? So we want to bring them into the schools in a positive way so that they can start early on realizing that, look, police officers are good people. They're here to serve and protect the public, and these are people who you should start building a positive relationship with. And that's part of my preventative measures plan, right? Because my plan, as you said, it was very extensive. There are things that would address the violence that's going on today, like the gun court, to get guns off the streets. But there are also many things in there that are designed to create preventative measures to prevent crimes from happening in the future.
Okay, so let's go to the lightning round here.
Sure.
There's all sorts of stuff to talk about. ARPA funds. Have you been satisfied with the way ARPA funds have been allocated in the city?
Absolutely not. I think you'll find very few people who are satisfied. Maybe those individuals who have received bigger pool of the money have been satisfied, but it hasn't been equally distributed. There's really no rhyme or reason or no explanation as to why certain businesses got certain amounts. There's really no explanation for it. And that's the problem with the ARPA funds. Look, and one of the biggest issues that I have with the ARPA funds too is there were 4 categories in which the money could be spent. One of those categories was water infrastructure, and the mayor gave $0 from the ARPA money to water and sewer. In the meantime, we received notification that our water rates are going to increase 6.5%, and our water quality keeps going down. So we're paying more for water of lesser quality. So that's just one example of how I would have done a much better job distributing the ARPA funds. But also the fact that just the imbalance and the way that the funds were distributed to help sort of the people who have been more supportive of the mayor. It's just a bad look for the city.
Neighborhood development. I got to ask you about that.
Sure.
We've spent a lot of money and time and effort to rebuild downtown.
Yes.
And we're seeing some of that money come about because now we have more restaurants downtown, we have more people coming downtown, which is all beneficial to us. But a lot of neighborhoods in Springfield feel like they have been neglected.
Yep.
I know you have an affinity for Indian Orchard.
Yes.
And that's one of the neighborhoods that has long felt that it hasn't gotten the attention from the city.
Right.
If you're mayor, would you try to change some of this economic development strategy?
Absolutely, and I have a very extensive economic development plan, which is also available on my website. Mayor Sarno has been a good mayor for downtown, but he forgets that we have 16 other neighborhoods in the city of Springfield. I want to be the mayor for all 17 neighborhoods, not just downtown. And that includes Indian Orchard. I have a vision for every neighborhood. And I'll just give you an example for Indian Orchard. Over the last few years, I've been talking about my vision for a dining district in Indian Orchard. We forget that Indian Orchard is our second downtown, right? We have a downtown Springfield, we have a downtown Indian Orchard, which has been neglected, like you said. And my vision is that we turn that into a dining district, because if you look at the amount of cars that pass through Main Street Indian Orchard, they come from Chicopee, they come from Ludlow, they come from Wilbraham. You got thousands of cars going in every direction every single day, and they don't stop. We want to give them a reason to stop, and by doing that, we can do that by creating a dining district. It's the perfect location for it. We can tie in Water Street Park. My vision is to create a food park on Water Street Park, a food truck park on Water Street Park, to combine that with the dining district, and I think it would do really well. I've seen it in other communities as I travel around the country, and I just had that vision in my head, and I want to make it a reality. But there's also an investment that needs to happen in the other neighborhoods, and I have a plan for each individual neighborhood, an economic development plan that includes a lot of services and help for small businesses, which, by the way, are the biggest employer in the city of Springfield. When you combine the mom and pop shops, they employ more people than any other business in the city of Springfield, and people forget that.
We've seen a lot of advances in the last few years in terms of our school systems. We've gotten a lot of money for school building and repairs from Boston. We've seen the graduation rates go up. Is there more? Do you like that trajectory? And if you're mayor, you're going to be head of the school committee. What are some of the things that you're going to emphasize with that position? Yeah,
well, first of all, teachers don't get paid enough, right? I mean, they just don't. So one of the things that I would like to see is increased salaries for our educators. We have to do a better job of recruiting educators that actually reflect the community and the student body that they are teaching. Folks that look like them and understand their culture. Because if you look at the overall demographics, it's just not very diverse. So we have to do a better job at that. The graduation rate, I mean, it depends how you look at it, right? It's hard to believe that we are on the right track with an increased graduation rate when you're actually on the ground and listening to the stories from parents and students. That's not the reality, right? And so I just think we can do more. We can do better. And education, our educational system in the city of Springfield is also part of our economic development because it's difficult to attract new businesses and new people to our city when our education system is falling apart and has a bad reputation. So we need to do better.
Okay. Orlando, I'm going to see you next week at the debate.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming by.
Appreciate it.